days. Been a road, been a road.
What advice would you give a young man or female on reasons why they don't want to be incarcerated outside of the obvious that your freedom taken from you? Whatever advice would you get right off your head? Not off your head, but what advice you get?
A lot of times I like to tell people that, you know, I don't know anybody that woke up, and I just say this stuff, but I don't know a lot of people that wake up and say, I'm gonna go to prison today. I'm gonna get a life sentence today, right? But I have gotten out of my bed myself and need to do this and that and this and that, and I don't know how I'm gonna do it.
Right.
And I done made bad decisions. And when I finished making the bad decision, I was over to jail. So, you know, what I like to tell a lot of people is that, man, you know, we all have problems. We all go through things, right? And a lot of times when we stressing and we panic and we make decisions, that makes the decision worse. So I say that to say that, you know, if a dude making a bad decision because he need money, he definitely gonna need some more money when he go over to jail, because you need money to make a collect call. You need money to keep it moving, right? So I try to remind them of that. And that's just on a just a fly by night talking tip. Like whatever the situation, excuse me, whatever the situation may be, you're gonna have to deal with that. You know, like I got a young man right now, he going through some things, he feel as though that he was disrespected. Some people may say, oh man, he's disrespected, so we'll keep it moving. But you and I both know and understand where Shawty coming from. Disrespect is almost like somebody killing him where he from.
Right.
You know what I mean? So what I advise in that situation to just slump is that, yo, I know you got to make a decision about this, and I know what come with disrespect. I know what come with reputation. I done participated in this on both sides of the fence, right? And I try to remind them that every action got a reaction. And I just told him this in real life, like, Holmes, don't let 5 minutes, you know what I'm saying, turn into 40 years. So that's saying and things that you can talk about. We know that sometimes when you come from places like we come through, sometimes situations just get out of hand. And if they get out of hand and you do something that going to cost you that 40 years, you got to be able to deal with that. To get more straight to the point, I remind some other people as I try to remind myself in times where, you know, I've been in desperate situations or I've made some bad decisions. I try to think about this book that came from, it's called The New Jim Crow, written by Michelle Alexander. It's one of my favorite books, right? And in that book right there, it specifically goes into the 13th Amendment. And for those that don't know, the 13th Amendment is what allegedly freed the enslaved people, right? But in the 13th Amendment, it say, you know, everybody's free to go and there's no more slaves unless you are duly convicted of a crime, right? So, and it don't say that exact way. It say something to that effect, you know what I'm saying, for all the people, right? Yeah. But it say exactly that in fact, right? So I say that to say that when you commit a crime and you get convicted of a crime, you're a slave again. And if you think about slavery or anything that you've been taught about slavery, just know, you know, they don't got to crack the whip with the whip no more. You dig what I'm saying? Once you go in that box and you get a name, I mean, you get a number that replaces your name, that you basically, you know, all your respect, aside from those of us that say, no, I'm still a man and I'm going to demand my respect. Yeah, I done been in that situation and I stand there and I stand there and I deal with that. But remember that when you go back up in them joints, you could have made $1 million out here slanging and banging. Because remember, home, the violence don't mean nothing in the joint. Like you could get a rep, and if you know, but remember that don't mean nothing. Making $1 is really what the streets was supposed to be about, right?
Exactly.
All right, so if you made millions and millions of dollars and you get clinked, you don't really have access. I mean, if you was some type of genius, you got to put up, okay, fine, and then you got a couple dollars, but they gonna tell you to squat and cough and bend over and spread your butt cheeks every single time you go on a visit. Now you talking about you did something for reputation and you did something for honor. What about that right there? You're gonna go through that for the next 40 years. They disrespecting you every day for 40 years. For Slim disrespecting you one time. And I ain't telling you to be no pushover. But just know, they gonna keep on disrespecting you, and the disrespect gonna come in all shapes, forms, and fashions. So, you know, that's what I advise.
Think before they react. Think before they react. Yeah.
It is what it is. I'm not gonna never sit here or nowhere, public or private, and say I don't understand. I understand. I spent 17 years in a joint for bad decisions. But just know what come with it. In prison what you experience, what I experience with dudes from those eras, that ain't what they're experiencing right now.
Right.
Like,
it's a
it's
different
on another level, and I'm talking psychologically. Like, I don't care if you bench press 600 pounds. Psychologically, it's something different. I don't know if you can even quantify or measure how much you bench press psychologically.
Right, exactly. That's key. And it's crazy, like you're saying. And I even tell my little mentees, 3 to 6 seconds, you gotta make that decision. You know what I'm saying? Based on Turner.
I mean, ain't that's how it go down?
Right, it's that fast, right? It's that fast. Man,
Yeah, for sure.
we know you're a prolific author, man. How many books you actually wrote?
To be honest with you, man.
I'm gonna ask you how many ghost books you wrote too, but how many books you wrote that your name on?
All right. That's a better question. I got 12 books with my name on. I know that answer.
Okay.
I know that answer off the top. I got 12 books in the ebook. Shout out to Eddie Mathis. The
Right,
Godfather is an ebook, but I was trying something with that.
Right.
But shout out to Eddie Mathis again. His the people that follow him,
Right.
they demanded it to be a book, and I thought I could create and generate some traffic to
Right.
make them evolve into ebook readers, but they just not going for it. And then the prison population is totally upset that they can't get it, so I got to do that. But nevertheless,
Right.
well, let's say 13 with that.
Okay, so let's segue to my next question with Eddie Mathis. I know y'all was working on a project together. I actually got interviewed on. What's up with that? What's going on with that right now?
We still in the process of doing that. We have been working on a couple other things, right? As far as our crew, because our crew is not just me; it's a whole team, right? And I think we're supposed to get that back up and running this month as we speak. But a lot of people came down with COVID, and there's a lot of things was going on that slowed us up. But we definitely gonna knock that out the park. I think that's gonna be one of the. I think that's gonna between. It's definitely dear to me, right? Because like a lot of people don't know, Eddie Mathis been around me since I was a kid. He's friends with my family, right? And I had to work years and years and years to get him to even talk. Like, this ain't just like, why this done happen now? This ain't just, I met him the other day and we did this. Me and Ed used to correspond prison to prison about how we would one day do it. And even back then, I thought it would never happen. Like, he set a criteria of what we needed to do before we could get to it, so to speak. And just to tell you how much work they've been put in it, some of the things that we had to do was he had to get out of prison. He had 24 years then, right? After he got out of prison, he had to complete supervision, some more years, right? Then he had to be confident that his family would be comfortable with whatever he said, right? Then after we went over all that, we had to analyze any of those. Then it's just the beginning part. So I don't want to keep on going, but before we got a camera up in any studio anywhere, like that was like a Pentagon clearance right there, man.
Exactly,
I'm telling
you. Yeah, a lot of people know from that old school mentality, and we come from the teaching that they already set forth. It's not even comfortable to really talk in front of cameras and even taking a lot of pictures, you know what I'm saying? Even doing this podcast, I just did start a little bit, almost close to a year, but I've been doing it in my mind for 8 to 10 years, you know what I'm saying? At least 8 years, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a build-up for the life we live. This next question is a 2 or 3 part question. First, how did you be able to be a writer in the Don Diva? And I seen an article you did or a story you wrote called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So my question is, how you became a writer there? Who came up with that term, and what did that term mean on that article you wrote or story you wrote?
All right, man. Yeah, that's a good question too, Slim. But I started. I'm a hustler. I like to fancy myself as a hustler, right? So
from uptown.
Yeah, right. So I'm gonna find a way to make some ends meet. In prison, when I was younger, I used to write letters for other guys.
Okay.
It was they pay me. But as I got older, I wanted to do something a little bit better with it. And when I got to the feds, I met a guy by the name of Seth Ferranti. He's a crime writer and a film producer as well, right? Shout out to him. And he was writing articles and whatnot for publications. Like, he make a couple. I ain't gonna get too much into his business, but he made a couple dollars. I wanted to do that, and I definitely felt like I had stories. Like I'm from the nation's capital, and like you said, we tight-lipped. So a lot of stories I had, no one had ever spoken about publicly, at least nationally. So anyway, he knew Kevin Childs, and he had met Kevin Childs, and he was right for Don Diva. And if I'm not mistaken, he introduced me to Kevin Childs, and I started calling Kevin Childs, and I had a story. I had a few stories, right? But you only asked about one, but it's gonna bring it to the other two. And what I did was with that good, the bad, the ugly, which is a concept that I believe Kevin Childs and Tiffany Childs came up with. Shout out to them. I had access to Wayne Perry because we was writing each other from the prison I was in, the ADX, and. Just for the record, since you brought that up, because a lot of people don't talk about that no more. There's a lot of controversial things in that article that I want to separate myself from. And even for the sake of Wayne, I'm going to separate Wayne from some of the things that was said in that article, right? I'm not going to say that they were lies. I'm not going to say that somebody did something that was dirty. But I think that when you get, like anybody to know anything about journalism, stories that are written from the Washington Post to USA Today, a lot of times other writers contribute to them. And then the whole writing is put into one body of writing. When that happens, unlike in the Washington Post or some major publications, they're retracted later. You know, Don Diva is a smaller publication in regards to the Washington Post. It's not a small publication. But it was some things in there that got mixed up. We don't got to go into those things, but since you brought it up, I got to say that for the record. But nevertheless, I was able to get an interview from him, and then I had old classic pictures of Frey, and they wanted to combine some of those articles in that issue. To my knowledge, that was their highest selling issue 30. You know, and I contributed to 2 of those articles, and they had my name on there, Seth Ferrante's name, and some other people's name in there. But that was one of the first introductions of me writing true crime. But I learned a lot of lessons from there, and that's one of the reasons why now when I write stories, even like we were just talking about Eddie Mathis, right? I got to have a source there because I'm not just some journalist. I'm like, I got to walk out this door, hop in my car, and go back into the city. And I got to be around the people that I write about. I ain't one of these jokers that write about somebody from somewhere else. I write about people from where I'm from. And I try to write about people that I actually know. I don't write about people that don't want to be written about, and I don't write about dudes that I don't know. So I got a whole bunch of standards that your average joker that does journalism just don't have. They don't come from that background. That's what I say about that.
Okay. Who are some of the authors that you get your motivation from?
Present or
period, who you can read or you read and inspire you to go write deeper.
Off the rip, right? I was inspired to write what I write and how I write by Donald Goines. For people who don't know Donald Goines, like he a gangster writer,
boy,
Godfather writer.
And
from juvenile to a lot of time that I spent in prison, I read his books, and his books were set in places like Detroit and Chicago and Los Angeles, right? And he told stories of what was going on at that time in the 70s, most of them, because he do have some of them that drip into the 60s. But the ones that I paid attention to was 70s and a little bit later in the 70s. But nevertheless, that's what inspired me to write, right? I always tell people that my favorite author, and even though he's just passed recently, which is a contemporary author, is Eric Jerome Dickey. I just love his style, right? But Donald Goines is one that inspired me. And then if we went into authors that I like right now, your whole podcast, your whole show will turn into a literary show, so I don't want to do that. But I do want to shout out some authors that's doing things that I like. You know, I like Tony Lure's book. He talk about a lot of things that I think some young people should like. I haven't got a chance to read Jimmy Jenkins' book yet, right? But somebody was just telling me about his book, so shout out to Jimmy Jenkins, right? And yeah, I'm being biased right now because I'm mentioning authors from where I'm from, but I've been noticing some of these authors right now. And then, of course, I want to send a big shout out to a guy a lot of people don't talk about, and that's Jason Poole, right?
Man, he a workhorse though.
Yeah, he actually got me. I'm not gonna say he got me my first book deal, right? But he got me my first book deal that I seen some money on. All right. So, you know, Jason Poole, Anthony Fields. I'm gonna even send a shout out to the author Real Live. They got the book Rap Poison and Money. Sex, Money, and Murder. I get his book mixed up with Sean's book, Money, Murder, and Mayhem. Of course, I got to send a shout out to Sean because Sean was a guy that wasn't even in the writing. You know what I'm saying? Seeing that it was an opportunity for him to tell his story and got into it and kind of like jumped into the business and just got to running with everybody who been out here for years. But, you know, those some definitely some authors that I can mention. I mean, and there's a whole bunch of them that helped me along the way learn, because you didn't just say inspiration, you said some other things. So,
Right.
you know, that would go for a guy named Treasure Blue. You know, he introduced me to that whole Cash Money crew. You know, Ashley and Jaquavis, J.M. Benjamin. There's a bunch of these names
Book Diva.
that I
Book Diva.
content.
What about the Book Diva?
Yeah, definitely shout out to her. She published one of my books as well, Lord and Legends.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
Sharp. She
So
sharp.
Kwame T, he got a book called Dynasty.
Right.
You know, a lot of those people.
Okay. Just tapped into your legal expertise, because what is your opinion about the young Thug Rico case, just from a legal standpoint, not from you just being in their business, from a legal standpoint?
Nah, I get it. I mean, be honest with you, I'm a little slow when it comes to some other people's jurisdiction, specifically, not in general, right?
Okay.
So only reason I say that is that I didn't even know it was a state RICO law until a few months ago. I never had heard of one.
Right.
So when I saw it and read it, and the sad thing about it, I got a buddy, shout out to Lavelle Long. He got a case in Georgia and they schooled me to this, right? So now I've read a little bit about it, but first and foremost, it's nothing like the federal laws. You know, they shape it and mold it like that. But I'm not an expert on it. I think that since he's a rapper, I think a whole bunch of internet lawyers have been created. And I think that if you ain't really been through some of this, that you might not know what you're talking about. And I'm not gonna say that a person can't use common sense and, you know, do this and that, but them courtrooms ain't no joke. Dude's life be on the line, and I think that if you can't get nothing out of it, man, you got to get out of it. That you got to keep your circle tight. And it's crazy. Somebody else asked me about it, and I used the quote from you, like about the sidewalk. Like some people just ain't qualified to be on certain levels. Like just because you can drive a car don't mean you can fly a plane.
Exactly.
And you know, I think that some of them.
Since you gave me a plug, man, you can get this at alldays.com, man.
Yeah,
Since you gave me a plug,
for sure.
alldaysgear.com. Y'all appreciate that.
The streets ain't made for everybody. That's why they made sidewalks.
Like created sidewalks, my man.
But I think that on an entrepreneur tip, right? You know, I hate to see any young black man come up out the hood and make it. Like I think some people don't realize that they made it because they in the process of it, right? But you know, when you gain that independence of having your own money and being able to do what you want, like if you really from where people say they from, you done kind of came up. And I just hate to see dudes get in a situation to lose that. And like for an example, I've never been in no position in life where I've thought I've made it, but you know, I done seen a few dollars before, and I done got caught up and lost all that just like that. So I can imagine if I ever had seen millions of dollars. So I just think people should take heed of it. And, you know, I wish Thug, if he remained firm, I wish him all the best, and I hope he could come up out of that situation. You know, I feel sorry for anybody to get told on. You know, people think it's just about telling and ratting, right? But it's so much deeper than telling and ratting. Like, it's the betrayal, right? Like, scratch the street code if you don't understand that, right? But if we break bread together, man, we partners, man. Even if you set me up, not for the law, like you set me up for somebody to steal something from me, man, betrayal, man, that is... man. Like, that's the part that I don't like. So everybody now want to talk about ratting and snitching. I find it dandy. Like, I done been under pressure. I ain't never said nothing. We could go to the electric chair before we get to talking. But that's another aspect that I think a lot of youngins, and when I'm saying youngin', I don't mean kids. I mean just younger guys that may not have been through that. Like, analyze your friendships, man. You know, test the boundaries. Make sure that this person is really your friend. How do you do that? I don't have a book on it, but whatever you can see, you know, because a lot of times people show us who they are before they even do what they do. And that's my take on not only Young Thug, but that's my take on a lot of people that's doing good. When you're doing good, you still got to analyze his home. Soon as it go bad, my goodness, man, you going to see what's really there.
Out the pot, niggas know me. Curtbone, little homie. All days, yeah. Been a road, yeah.
Look, man, make sure y'all log on to Curtbone TV. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Share it with a friend. I'm going to keep on bringing y'all interesting content, interesting interviews, I'm gonna even let y'all think of topics to give me that we can talk about. I'm gonna start going live. But what I need y'all to do is hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell for notifications, share it with a friend. Remember, Curtbone TV.